The next lecture is valence bond theory. So in valence bond theory, we are going to study about bonding in coordination compounds. So Alfred Werner, as we have learned in Werner's theory, has described the bonding characteristics in coordination compounds. But that theory has failed to explain certain questions like why certain elements possess remarkable properties of forming compounds, and also it could not explain the directional property that is observed in the bonds of the coordination compounds, and it also could not explain the characteristic magnetic and optical properties. So many theories or approaches have been put forward so as to explain the bonding nature in coordination compounds. Like these theories, for example, are valence bond theory VBT, crystal field theory CFT, ligand field theory LFT, and molecular orbital theory MOT. So in this lecture we are going to study about valence bond theory or VBT theory. So valence bond theory was extended to coordination compounds by Linus Pauling in the year 1931. So basically VBT deals with a central atom in the complex makes available a number of empty orbitals for the formation of coordination bonds with suitable ligands. So, the number of empty orbitals are being created around the central metal ion so that the ligands can approach the central metal ion to donate its pair of electrons. So, mainly the number of empty orbitals made available for this purpose is equal to the coordination number of the central metal ion. So this model utilizes the hybridization of the metal. So hybridization can be possible among the orbitals n-1d, ns, np, this is one set, or ns, np and nd orbitals, this is the other set. So these are the two models hybridization sets which can be utilized by the metal. So these are trying to get equivalent orbitals. They have definite geometry to account for the observed structures such as octahedral, square planar, and tetrahedron. And these hybrid orbitals are allowed to overlap with the ligand orbitals that can donate electron pairs for bonding. So we have valence bond theory where we have applied this valence bond theory for simple molecules like water or ammonia. Like such molecules we have earlier applied, where we are going to see the shape of the molecules like water has angular shape, etc. So in this valence bond theory, we are going to extend for the coordination compounds. So basically in valence bond theory, you will have an atomic set where orbitals like s, p and d gets involved. Then you have hybrid orbital set, and then you will see the resultant geometry of that particular hybrid orbital set. So suppose for example consider s and p, this is the orbitals atomic orbital set. Then when these two s and p hybridized, they form 2sp orbit hybrid orbital set. And when these two hybrid orbital set attain a molecular structure, so that structure will be linear in shape. Suppose the atomic orbital set is s and two p orbitals p and p, then totally there will be 3 sp2 hybrid orbital sets. So that results into an electronic geometry of trigonal planar. Similarly, when we go to atomic set consisting of 1 s orbital and 3 p orbitals, then the hybrid orbital set would be 4 sp3 orbitals. So the 4 sp3 orbitals would attain a geometric structure of tetrahedron. Then when it comes to involvement of d orbital, suppose you have one s orbital and 3 p orbitals and one d orbital, there are total of 5 hybrid orbital set of sp3 hybridization. Then you have the electronic geometry of trigonal bipyramidal. Then if the atomic orbital set consists of 1s, 3 p orbitals and 2 d orbitals, then total are 6 orbitals. So there will be 6 sp3d2 hybrid orbital set. So the electronic geometry would be octahedron. So we'll see the postulates of VBT theory. The central metal ion in the complex makes available number of empty orbitals equal to its coordination number. I have first explained this statement. So this statement just means that the central metal ion in the complex would make available number of empty orbitals so that ligands can approach and donate its pair of electrons. So the number of ligands that would approach or bond to the central metal ion would be equal to the available number of empty orbitals. That's what this statement means. Then the metal ion uses hybrid orbitals involving s, p, and d orbitals for accepting electrons from ligands. So s, p, and d orbitals have been utilized for this purpose. Then the d orbitals are of two types for hybridization. So one, you can use inner d orbitals, that is n minus 1 d orbitals, or outer orbitals, that is nd orbitals. So the orbitals, d orbitals that can be used are of two types. One is inner and the outer. Inner is n minus 1d and the outer is nd orbitals. Then each of the ligand has at least one orbital containing a lone pair of electrons. So a ligand which is going to approach to the metal center should have at least one lone pair of electrons. Then only it can donate to the metal center. Then the empty hybrid orbitals of metal ion overlap with the fully filled orbitals of the ligand to form the ligand metal coordinate bond. So the empty orbitals of the metal and the fully filled orbital of the ligand, they try to form a bond, and that is known as ligand metal coordinate bond. And after the bond formation with ligand, if metal atom carries unpaired electrons, then it shows paramagnetism. So here the paramagnetic nature of the complex can be seen if a metal ion carries an unpaired electron after the bond formation. So the paramagnetism can be evaluated using the formula mu is equal to root over n into n plus 2, where n is the number of unpaired electrons. Then for calculating the magnetic moment, if you have the number of unpaired electrons as 1, then your spin only magnetic moment. So mu is nothing but magnetic moment, and in this one we are only considering the unpaired electrons. So your magnetic moment will be only from spin contribution. So it is a spin only moment, and the unit of this magnetic moment is bm. Bm means Bohr magneton. Then if you have one unpaired electron, so you calculate root over, you substitute n as 1, so n into n plus 2. So your n value is 1 here, so 1 into 1 plus 2, and you calculate it with the value comes out to be 1.73. If the number of unpaired electrons are 2, one second, if the number of unpaired electrons is 2, so your n value is equal to 2. So you will calculate mu is equal to root over n into n plus 2. So you substitute the value of n as 2. So 2 into, as here it is shown, 2 into 2 plus 2. So wherever there is a value of n, you need to substitute the value of 2 for this particular one. Then you for n number of unpaired electrons as 3, then you substitute n value as 3 and you arrive at the spin only magnetic moment of this particular complex. So like that I have shown you for 5 unpaired electrons, and the 5 unpaired electrons you will have the spin only moment as 5.92. So then we have complex geometry can be linked to 5 main orbital hybridization process. So we have studied till now about hybridization and hybrid molecule, and you arrived at the geometry. Now you would see the correlation with the coordination number. If there is a coordination number as 2, then the geometry of that particular coordination compound would be linear in shape. If the coordination number is 4, it means that there are 4 ligands around the central metal ion. Then if the coordination number is 4. For coordination number 4, there are two geometries which are possible. One is tetrahedron, the other one is square planar. So whenever you have tetrahedral geometry, the hybrid orbitals involved are sp3 orbitals. Whenever you have coordination number as 4 and that is square planar, you will have hybridization as dsp2. Then coming to coordination number 6, whenever you have the coordination number 6, you have the geometry as octahedral. So octahedral geometry can exhibit two types of hybridizations. One is D2sp3 and the other one is sp3d2. So for coordination number 4, you have two different geometries. One is tetrahedron, square planar. Tetrahedron is sp3 hybridization, square planar is dsp2 hybridization. For octahedron, you have two kind of hybridizations. One is d2sp3 and the other one is sp3d2. So this is the table showing you about coordination number and the atomic orbitals utilized and the hybridized orbitals formed, and the geometry of the molecule is being shown, and the example of the coordination number is being given. So for coordination number 2, you have an example. For coordination number 3, you have the examples. For coordination number 4, the examples are given. So you can see the examples of different coordination numbers and their geometry and the hybridized orbitals and the atomic orbitals involved in the hybridization. Then next up you have inner orbital and outer orbital complexes. So inner orbital complexes are the one in which the complexes uses n-1d, ns and np orbitals. So in the postulates of VBT, I have mentioned you that d orbitals utilized for hybridization can be of two types. One is n-1d and the other one is nd orbitals. So the complexes which uses n-1d, ns and np orbitals for hybridization, then these complexes will come under inner orbital complexes. So such complexes are spin paired or low spin complexes. So the spins in these complexes will be paired. So whenever there is spin pairing, these complexes are also known as low spin complexes. So these complexes are usually formed by the strong field ligands like CO, Cn minus, NO2, etc. So these complexes are formed against to Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. So Hund's rule is nothing but every orbital in a subshell is singly occupied with one electron before any one orbital is doubly occupied. So this particular inner orbital complexes are formed against to Hund's rules of maximum multiplicity. So coming to outer orbital complexes, these are the complexes in which the hybridization orbitals involved in hybridization are ns, np and nd. In the inner orbital complexes, n-1d orbitals were involved, but in outer orbital complexes, ns, np and nd orbitals are involved. So such complexes are high spin complexes, and mostly the ligands which are weak ligands, those ligands will try to form the outer orbital complexes, and examples of weak field ligands are F minus, Br minus, Cl minus, H2O, ammonia, etc. So ammonia has a peculiar property. Ammonia acts as a strong field ligands for cobalt complexes. So you need to remember that when you are dealing with VBT. Then these complexes are formed according to Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. So the outer orbital complexes will follow the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, whereas inner orbital complexes will not follow the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity. Then this is the pictorial representation showing inner d orbital and outer d orbital. So the one which uses these set of orbitals, see, this is, I have taken n value as 4. So n minus 1 will be n minus 1d. This is n minus 1d. This is ns and this is np. So the value of n is 4. So 4p, 4s, and you substitute 4 minus 1 is 3. So 3d. So n minus 1d, ns and np, if these set of orbitals are used for hybridization, this will result into an inner orbital complex and low spin or spin paired complex. Suppose for example, if it uses n minus, if it uses ns, np and nd, like 4s, 4p and 4d. ns, np and nd. If this set of orbitals are used for hybridization, that would lead to an outer orbital complex or high spin or spin free complex. Then when strong field ligands like ammonia and cyanide are involved in the formation of complexes, they cause spin pairing electrons present in the metal ions. And this process is known as spin pairing. Whenever there are strong field ligands, there is a possibility of spin pairing. So this is all about valence bond theory.